Welcome folks, so the playthrough for Vanguard EX is over and we're going to be switching to a different kind of style of videos from here on out. Not entirely, but to some extent. So for the entire playthrough I was uploading 2 videos per day, for those of you that watched it as it was coming out. From here on out, videos will be only once per day, sometimes less than that, depending on my schedule. But I will be trying to kind of balance between doing the other stories. I already finished Ren by the time I'm uploading this, and then, you know, the other 3. And then also doing ranked climbing with different decks. I want to explore a lot of different decks, present a bunch of different playstyles and stuff like that. And on top of that, obviously, normal Vanguard videos. Like, there's stuff that I haven't done, like set breakdowns and meta-analyses and stuff like that, that does need doing. So we're going to be kind of alternating between those. I'm going to try to keep up a daily schedule. If I can't, then I mean, it's going to be, you know, 3, 4, 5 videos a week. But I'll still try, you know, to keep you guys entertained and plugged with all the EX footage, because there's a lot of stuff to look into. But today, we're going to be doing something that so many of you requested, and I promised to do, which is to look at every single EX gift. And before we begin, I need to say that ever since the game released, I have been streaming this game on Twitch. There's a link in every single description of all my videos, a link to the Twitch channel. So, you know, we have a whole setup. You know, we have this like chat and chill section, which, you know, has all our stuff. Usually chat will be on that little bar right over here. And then we have a bunch of cool emotes already approved. You know, I've applied for partner and stuff like that. So honestly, if you haven't already, do check out the Twitch channel, follow it to stay notified of when I go live, and then you can always join the sub club if you want to. But yeah, so without any further ado, let's go on with the video. So the one that actually has all the EX gifts is Shido Izuru, and so we're going to go over every single one. Then I'll switch to the other characters. Like, they have the same gifts as Izuru, but they only have 2 at a time, so I'm just going to go over who has which gift per character so you actually know which ones they are. So, for Izuru, his first one is Psy Qualia, which is, in a pinch, you will hear the voices of your opponent's triggers if they are coming up. So let's say when you're at 4 damage or so, that's usually when this goes off, 4 or 5 damage, when your opponent's about to drive check, you get a prompt, and then you'll hear a voice from the top of your opponent's deck saying something like, "Be careful," which basically means that there's a trigger coming. If you don't hear it, that means there's no trigger coming in the next drive check. So it doesn't apply to twin drive, just to that first trigger, I believe. So, you know, that way you can at least calculate your shield, and it kind of does save you sometimes, but that's only when you're in a pinch, and a pinch is basically 4 or 5 damage. Then the next one is Final Turn. So when you would declare Final Turn, which you do by pressing start and then A when you start your turn, the chance to check a critical trigger is higher. So it's kind of nonsensical to run this in a deck with like 8 fronts or something, but if you do run crits, this will raise the chance of checking a crit. Again, keep in mind, EX gifts are only in story mode, so that's something to keep in mind. Third is Resurrection. This is when you have 5 or more damage, the chance of checking a heal trigger is higher. So basically, when you're at 5 damage, whether it's a drive or a damage check, it's a higher chance. Obviously, I mean, when you hit 6, it's already a bit too late, but that's just to help you survive. All Out Attacker. This one is when you drive check, the chance of hitting a front trigger is higher. So this is good in stuff like Silver Thorns and stuff like that. So just to, like how we have the Final Turn one to raise crit chance, this one is to raise the front trigger chance, but it's only during drive check, not during damage check, so keep that in mind. This one is Summon Draw. When your hand has 3 or less cards, the chance of checking a draw trigger is higher. Now this is nice because it's not only, you know, the nice thing of getting more cards in hand, but also the fact that you actually get a PG into your hand too, so this one is actually pretty nice as well. Next is Critical Finish. So this is when your opponent's damage is 4 or more, the chance of checking a critical trigger goes up. So basically kind of similar to Final Turn, except it doesn't have to be on that Final Turn prompt. It can just be when your opponent's at 4 or more damage, so you really do finish them off. Then there is Psy Qualia EX, so this is a more buffed up version of Psy Qualia that you would usually use. So this one is, in drive checks and damage checks, the chance of checking a trigger is higher. So Psy Qualia normally was just in a pinch, checking a trigger is higher, but here, any drive check, any damage check, you're just more likely to check triggers. So that's the one for that. This one is quite useful, Collect Ride. This basically says that at the start of the game, you will start with 1 of each grade. So basically, no G assisting. It's actually pretty nice. There are some characters in the other stories that have this gift, so you can actually use that to have smoother games without needing to G-assist randomly. So this is pretty useful. I think Collect Ride is actually a quite good one. Next one is Mija. Mija is, at the beginning of the fight, you get to see your opponent's hand. So basically you get to see your opponent's hand at the start of the fight. This is one of Onimaru's skills, so you get to see their hand and then you start dropping cards and then you kind of remember it for the rest of that game. So it's pretty good for that reason. Then we have Summon Soul. Then we have Demon Soul. So the time when you would soul charge, the chance of soul charging a normal unit is higher. So that way you don't soul charge your triggers. In Dark Regulars it's pretty good. In Pale Moon not so much because you're already doing very selective soul charging, so it's not really worth it. Then we have Chotto Matta, which is like, wait a minute. So this is when you would take your 6 damage by halving the VP that you gain, and keep in mind VP is the currency with which you buy packs, playmats, sleeves, etc. By halving your gained VP from this match, you get to heal once. So it's not checking a heal, but it's using the gift to give yourself a heal, which is interesting, but I don't think it's that useful. Now this one is Misaki's I Detect Memory. So this one is basically when your opponent reveals a card that goes to their hand, you still see it. So for example, their drive checks, you still see it. If they showed, like let's say if OTT shows you their top card and then adds it to deck, you get to see it. I mean adds it to hand, then you get to see it. So basically any revealed cards in the game, like drive checks and stuff, stay visible throughout the game. So this is basically Misaki's I Detect image skill that she uses. And then the best EX gift in the whole game, honestly, it really is the best, is Global Skill. This one is, at the end of a fight, the VP that you gain is times 1.2. So basically, you gain an extra amount of VP, which means that you can open packs faster, build decks faster, buy sleeves, playmats, etc. faster, and overall it's just a very good one to have. So Global Skill is a very important one, by far the best one that you want to be using for your general playthroughs of Vanguard DX. Sadly, this is only on Shido Izuru, so you can't use it on the other playthroughs, but this is the best skill to have. Like, by far the best. You unlock it around midway through the game, and it's just super good. And then finally, you have Serious Fight, which basically disables your opponent's EX gift. So this is Ibuki's actually, which is really interesting. So when you fight Ibuki, he automatically procs this, and he disables your EX gift. So this is, I mean, it's cool because that way it's like, you know, no shenanigans fight, but at the same time, if you're running Global Skill to gain extra VP, he disables that. So you should not farm Ibuki because he will just disable it every time. So these are all the EX gifts, every single one. However, I will look at all the other characters to show you what each one of them has. So let's take a look at Aichi for a second, and I'll show you which gifts he has. I think they're pretty predictable though. So, he has Psy Qualia, so the regular one. In a pinch, the chance of checking a trigger is higher. And then Psy Qualia EX, which is, in a drive check, damage check, the chance to check a trigger is higher. So, between these two, you're better off running Psy Qualia EX if you're gonna run one, because I mean, it's kind of natural, I guess. You can not run any if you don't want to. That way it's kind of like, oh, you're not using any shenanigans, but like, for the sake of the story, it's kind of fun using them. I think it doesn't really detract from it that much. They're not that reliable either, so I think it's fine. Now for Kai, if we change into him, you will see that his gifts are Final Turn, so that's the one that when you declare Final Turn, the chance of checking a crit is higher, and Summon Draw, when your hand is 3 or less, the chance of checking a draw is higher. Summon Draw is pretty useless because it's actually not good at all when it comes to using the end, I think. With other decks like the Great or Blade Master Waterfall, it's pretty cool, but I think it's better to stay on Final Turn for Kai. So those are his two skills. EX gifts rather. Now Ren has arguably the best combo of these like random 2-ofs because he has Collect Ride, which Collect Ride is the one that lets you start with one of each grade in your starting hand, which honestly isn't, in my opinion, the best one apart from Global Skill. So I think Collect Ride is honestly really good because you just don't need to G-assist that way and it's really nice. His other one is Psy Qualia EX, pretty self-explanatory. Both Aichi and Ren have that. Because, I mean, it is their real skill. So, that's Ren, and then now let's just take a look at Onimaru Kazumi. So his should be relatively predictable too. It's pretty interesting though. So he has Mija, so that's the one that reveals your opponent's hand at the start of the game. And then he has Resurrection, which is when you're at 5 or more damage, the chance of checking heal trigger is higher. I think Mija is pretty good to use with him because, I mean, it is Nubatama. Keep in mind that with the other 4 characters, you are locked into their clans. So with Izuru, you can use any clan you want, even though he's a Tachikaze main. The other 4, you have to use theirs. So Shadows for Ren, Nubatama for Kazumi, Kagero for Kai, and Royals for Aichi. So that's how it is with the EX gifts. So yeah, that's basically all of them. I think it's pretty interesting. I like the EX gift mechanic because it adds some extra fun to the game, and so I think it's actually quite worth it to explore them and use them like that. So honestly, I do recommend to explore what you want to use. Each of them has its own merits. Some of them are worse than others, like there's no real reason to use the regular Psy Qualia over Psy Qualia EX. And then keep in mind that if you don't like them, you can always disable them. You don't have to use an EX gift. You can always go without one. So that's the nice thing about this game, is that it gives you a lot of flexibility in how you want to play it through. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know you guys have been asking for this for a long time, but this is the full list of EX gifts in Vanguard EX. So hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.